Hi, it's Jane with the Compassion Project, and I am here with Wayne Lee today, and I'm excited because we're going to share some amazing, heartwarming stories. Welcome, Wayne.
My pleasure to be here, Jane. It's so exciting always to reconnect and share some goodness and good stories.
Yeah, I think it's important. This has been an interesting year, challenging, and yeah, so I thought, why not share these stories? So Wayne Lee is a peak performance expert. He's a Hall of Fame speaker and an award-winning hypnotist. But most importantly, he is a husband and a dad to two beautiful children, and he's a really good friend of mine, and I'm blessed to know you. So I saw on Facebook that Wayne had an experience over Christmas of giving back, and it really got to my heart. And I thought, oh, I want to hear this live. So I reached out to him. And so he's going to share kind of what him and his family did on Christmas Eve. I think it was, right?
It was, yeah.
And then I'll share one after that. It reminded me of something that happened to me a couple of years ago. So, but we're going to start with Wayne's story.
Awesome. So it all began, Jane, when I opened up the fridge in our house a few weeks back. And it just hit me. I'm like, we have a problem. Problem is that we have so much darn food in here. I don't know where I can put this container in the fridge. And my wife wasn't around, but that was my thought. And typically that is our problem in the house, is that we got so much, we're stocked up in the fridge. And then it just hit me like, how many people don't have that problem? How many people are actually not even eating? And it was just like what I'm getting right now, like those thrill bumps of, we could do something. And I think I heard years ago Anthony Robbins talking about how he wanted to get a project of feeding everybody or a lot of people on Thanksgiving, and so to make sure that these people had a turkey. So I just thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to go downtown and wherever it is and feed some of the people that are less fortunate, maybe homeless. And I thought, what an easy way to do that with pizza. So that's where it all started, was that one idea, yet being inspired probably from many people throughout the years. And so I said that to my wife, and she says, yeah, that's a great idea, Wayne. She's also fairly, how could you say, hesitant with all the guidelines and the social distancing with COVID.
With COVID, yeah.
So right away, she's like, well, how are we going to do that? And I says, well, there's always a way, and we can social distance. And I can almost picture myself like passing out and then heading back into the vehicle, because we didn't even know where we were going to necessarily go to do this. And then we shared that with the kids. We said, we got this really great idea. We want to go out on Christmas Eve, buy some pizzas for everybody and just pass it out. And they were excited about it. They were like, that's pretty cool. And I realized in the moment, like, that's such a powerful thing for them, because kids are like sponges. And if we can do in some way, not just tell them some good ideas, but actually do those ideas and show up and model them, I thought that's the most powerful thing.
And your kids are, how old is Ivy?
So Ivy's 12, her daughter's 12, and Ledger, her son, is 9.
9, perfect age too for that.
Yeah. And they're very compassionate. They're very much about giving and very much about being kind to others. And so it was just so wonderful that we, the day came around, I called Domino's, see if they, the logistics of, do we need to order it way ahead of time? And they said, no, just call the day of. And so we called the day of, and we were going out to Nicole's family to drop off some presents. And I said, well, I can order it now. Wasn't well planned out. It was just, hey, got on the phone, order these 20 pizzas. Here's some, cheese pizzas and pepperoni and cheese. And thought, well, 20 is a good number. It'll last for a few people, or however many people we would actually pass it out to.
Yeah.
So we kind of fit it in, and it worked out perfectly, because on our way to Nicole's parents, we could pick up the pizzas, put them in the back of the vehicle, and then head out to downtown, wherever it was, because we still didn't know the exact location that we were going to be at. And this is the day of.
So downtown Edmonton, because Wayne lives in Edmonton, Alberta. So looking at one of the streets, maybe where there's homeless shelters, that type of thing. Is that where you're?
The first thing that came to mind was, I said to Ivy, I said, you're going to school at Vic Comp. She started there, and she loves that school. And around there, it's inner city. So there's lots of less fortunate, homeless. So my mind thought, we can go there, and we could just pass out the pizzas there. But then as we were going towards Nicole's parents, it kind of led us a little bit more to the right of that, which was, the mustard seed. There's a mustard seed church.
Yeah.
And right kitty corner is it's the Boyle Macaulay Health Center. And I didn't realize how many people would be there. But as we pulled up, we didn't see, and then when we looked at the center, all of these people that were less fortunate, homeless, were against the railings. And they were just kind of outside hanging out.
So at this point, were you feeling nervous, or were you excited or hesitant? It's kind of, because it is.
I was feeling excited. I'm more of a risk taker when it comes to that. And I just thought, what a great thing we're doing. Ask my wife, she probably thought, oh my goodness, how are we going to protect? It's just, everybody's different.
I think a lot of people hesitate because they get fear mode of what someone's reaction will be, and then we don't go ahead with things that are good like this, because you know what I mean, you have an idea, you want to do it, and then you think, what if it does, so that's why I love your story, because you went ahead and did it.
Yeah, and I'm telling you like how unplanned it was, because it doesn't have to be planning it out in a year. It's just like, we did this spur of the moment, we did it, and we're going to obviously refine it for next year. That's the story, is that people have already reached to us saying, how can we help for next year? So I just feel like this momentum that we're creating out of one idea that we acted upon, and it's now going to definitely be something bigger next year.
Yeah, so you got there and they were against the fence. That's where you were when I...
Yeah, and Nicole's looking around, and kids are looking around. And I said, yeah, don't worry. I'll make sure that I set the tone where I can take... So we had actually seen on the other side of the street, there was it was like a pharmacy. And there was, I think, 5 people around there, 4 or 5 people. So I thought, I'll start with that and then kind of get my feet just moving so I can put some out here, put some out here. So as I did that, the people kind of didn't know what was happening. And I just said, hey, pizzas are here. Somebody gifted you some pizzas. Like for me, it was really about feeding people. It wasn't like, hey, look at me, I've done this.
Yeah.
And so I put them down, and they were like, they kind of like had to do a second take, like, is this for real? And they were like, thank you so very much. So those are the first words that I heard from all of these people in that small group. And then I came back to the vehicle, the hatch was open. I took out another 5, and I went to where the group was, like the bigger group, and then I put it down. Some people were right there, so they were like already flocking to it. I said, okay, hold on, I'm just gonna put these down, you get up. And then it became like a frenzy of people coming over. But what was incredible to see is how people were looking out for each other. Like, there were some people that were just taking a pizza and they'd leave. That's given, these people are hungry, they need to eat. Mm-hmm. And then it was amazing to see how some of the people that were, like, say, physically challenged, like there was somebody that I could tell their sight wasn't that well. They were hobbling with a cane, and there was people that were looking out for those people. So it was a community of people. It didn't matter if they were homeless, less fortunate. It was a family. And so all I had to say is, hey, make sure everybody gets a slice. And they were just passing them out. Within a minute, I kid you not, they were all gone. They were like, and I just heard these screams of thank you, God bless, like everything they were doing to acknowledge. It tells me that they truly appreciated it. They needed it. And the one, I don't mean this to belittle anything. All I know is that it felt like, all the like people were coming out, and it's like a scene from Apocalypse or whatever. Like, these people are just coming in, and there was one person that was coming close. Nicole goes, okay, all the pizzas are out here. So, and I said,
right? You still have to keep your distance.
The one fellow, he was like, where's mine? And I said, make sure you give him a piece. And sure enough, everybody got a piece or whatever. And so that was it. And it took less than 10 minutes. We didn't even know where we were going. We just did it. And we were out of there. And I had a hard time talking to the family after, because I welled up. I was like, what is that feeling? Like, and that is a feeling of unconditional giving. So call that compassion, call that kindness, whatever word you use. It's such a visceral feeling of like, oh my goodness, like, I'm so selfish, I want more of that.
But it is a gift you truly give yourself. You think, oh, I'm going to go help these people. And then you leave, and you're feeling inside you is a feeling we all want, that feeling of joy. And it's just an inner deep feeling that you're like, it affects you in a different way.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, it's again, everybody has their own experience of that, whatever that is in terms of compassion, kindness, giving, and you realize how powerful that is, and you realize that's the heart essence of who we are. Now, when we drove off, I just turned and I said, wasn't that great? And both kids, like, they got it. They were like, that was so great, Daddy, that we did that. It felt so good. And
Aw.
I just kind of like, yeah. There was a point too, though, where I knew that what we did was like a sliver of what could be done. And so it's almost like, hey, we did something. We're not going to forget about this. We're going to maybe play a bigger game for next year. Because there's that point of like, okay, that was nice to do. How can we do more next year?
Yeah. Could you imagine if it became something where on Christmas Eve it was like deliver pizzas to the less fortunate? Because pizzas, it was such a good idea because people give a lot of other things, but we all love a nice hot piece of pizza. And to
Yeah.
go and deliver it like that, and they can just all share, because that is a community. They are their own community, and they
Yeah.
have relationships, and they're surviving together.
And there's a lot of those communities in Edmonton. This was one like speck of people there. So
Yeah.
just imagine. So when you said, could you imagine? Jane, I already have. Like, I already see it for next year, like how big it can be, like maybe 30 locations. And then we get a pizza company. Like, we just randomly chose Domino's. Maybe Domino's is listening to this right now and they're getting some airtime. Maybe Little Caesars wants to compete too. Like, who knows? Like, I say this because we have such a powerful medium of getting our message out there where people can join in and they can help. And like, I know that I can count right now 6 people on that post that, like all these great words, all these great, encouraging words of like, this was awesome, thank you. The people that are stepping up are going, how could we be a part of this next year?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
powerful.
It is powerful. And I love it because it's like you say, you open the fridge, you saw all this food, and it made you think, wow, people that don't have any. And I think at Christmas, a lot of us are like, where do we fit this in our fridge? Like,
Like, it's so true. And it's like, we all have problems. We all have problems. Give it a reality check in terms of a perspective. Like, my problem is that I have too much food in the fridge. Some people don't have anything to eat.
I know.
So it's like, it puts it in perspective, and everything is perspective. And so when you can, I know you had said, what's one word that would categorize the theme for this year? Finish the sentence. You had said this in your group.
Yeah.
And for me, is humility. Is like, just how do you get yourself to understand others?
Yeah, it's true. And I think too, when we're going through this pandemic and everything that the world is going through, when you really look around and see, wow, we're so lucky. How could I even complain? We have so much, and I thought, and there's so many less fortunate. And that's why, my heart, when I read your story, is like, oh.
So that's our story. It's just the start of it. Tell me, I'm very curious about yours, Jane, in terms of what happened, I think 3 years ago, you said?
Yeah, 3 years ago. I'll try to do it without tearing up, because I learned a huge lesson that day. It was Christmas Eve 3 years ago. And so just to give a quick where my mind was at that time, I was in quite a dark place. Even though I lived in a beautiful home, I don't think I could see what I had. I was struggling, kind of find purpose in my life. And I was, for the first time ever, I would say it was a bit of depression, even though I could put on the happy face. So that Christmas, my husband is a pilot, and when he gets his schedule, usually he can manage to be home. But this was the year he said, oh, I have to work on Christmas. And I remember thinking, what do you mean you have to work on Christmas? Like, he was actually coming home later that day, like 5 or 6 at night. But I knew that I would be alone for the first time in my life, alone on Christmas morning. And because I was already in a dark place, I felt it overwhelmed me. Mm-hmm. I was like, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I couldn't be at my daughter's because Mauricio's mom was there, and I wanted her to have time with the grandchildren. I couldn't. So I thought, okay, I didn't want to be like, oh, poor me, I'm alone in my beautiful house. But it really, my brain couldn't handle it. I thought I was just going to break down, and my husband felt bad. And so a couple of days before Christmas, I started thinking about it. I thought, why am I so like, why is this bothering me so much? And I was going to be like, I'll just open a whole bunch of presents and I'll drink Baileys and coffee and and then I thought about it. I thought that's not going to make me happy. And so Ed left on his trip the day before, and on Christmas Eve, I thought, I need to do something. I need to get out of myself. So I went to the store and I got 30 stockings, and I filled the stockings with things that reminded me of as a child. Like I put a little orange in the toe, and I put homemade cookies I'd made, and I put chocolates, and I put some happy stickers, and I put like fun things in these little stockings. And on Christmas Eve by myself here, I made 30 stockings, and I got a pair of gloves. So each one was tied with a stocking. They were little stockings, like this big, tied on the glove. And I tied them all together and I put them all in bags, and I had them ready for Christmas morning. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go give them out to the less fortunate, to the homeless on Christmas Day. That's how I wanted to spend my Christmas morning, instead of by myself, like trying to feel happy. But the thing that this is what is interesting to me is that there's a street here in Kelowna. I live in Kelowna, Canada. There's a street called Leon Street, and I hate Leon Street. It scares me. If I'm downtown and I go down Leon Street by mistake, and I'm just gonna be really honest, in my little red sports car, I'm on Leon Street. I almost panic because there's people in the homeless shelter and they're on the streets and they got tents, and I know that, I'm thinking they're gonna be doing drugs, and I don't want to go down Leon Street. I avoid it. So I thought, I am going to go to Leon Street to the homeless shelter, and I'm going to give these out, these stockings. That was my plan. So on Christmas morning, I get up and I get my bags in the car, and I get my little dog, and we head out, and I put on the Christmas music, and I started to feel really excited to go give it the stockings. But then I felt complete fear. I thought, what if they don't want them? What if these are stupid? I started to doubt it. But I thought, no, I can do this. So I drove, because you have to understand, I really was uncomfortable on that street. So I drove down, and there's another street on the way that I had seen some people that were homeless with I've seen them before. And I thought, maybe I'll go here first. I turned on that street, and I couldn't find anyone. And then I see this one man with a shopping cart. And so I pulled, just to try one person. I thought, maybe I'll just try with him. So I pulled up, and he looks at me, and I unrolled my window. And he goes, do you need directions? And I said, no, I just want to say Merry Christmas. And I was so nervous. I said, I just have something for you. So I gave this little stocking, and he said, and I said, there's some gloves. And he said, thank you. And he said, but I'm fine. I'm fine with the cold. I can handle the cold. And I said, well, Merry Christmas. And he said, thank you. And then I drove at the window, and I drove away, and I saw him jumping up and down with his gloves on, waving at me. And I thought, oh, okay, he liked them. And I had a bit more confidence. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. So I drove down Leon. I was shaking inside. I thought, what's wrong with me? But I truly didn't know what to expect, and I was alone. So I pulled up into Leon Street, and I sat in the car. And I put pillows. I put stuffed animals. I had lots of these beautiful stuffed animals and pillows, extra things in my back trunk in case I wanted to give those out too. So I get there. I was so nervous, and I get out of the car, and there's this young girl. She looked about 19, and you could tell she had a really tough life, and was just, and I got out of the car, and she comes right up to the car, and I said, Merry Christmas. And she's like, oh, Merry Christmas. And I gave her this little stocking, and she's like, thank you. Can I have one for my boyfriend? And I said, sure. And she goes, do you want to see where I sleep? I've made it so nice. And I was like, oh, okay. And she took me to this little corner, and she had all her blankets and pillows. And I said, would you like a stuffed animal too? And she came to the back and picked a stuffed animal, and she was hugging it. And she's like, thank you so much. And I thought, okay, I can do this. So I go across the street to the homeless shelter. There's all these, mostly men were out front, a few women. I had my dog, so they were into the dog. And I just said, Merry Christmas. And I started giving these out. And they're like, thank you so much. And then this lady came from the shelter, and a homeless lady. She came and she said, oh, what are you doing? And I started giving these stockings out. She goes, come inside. And she brought me in. And honestly, Wayne, I had 30. I needed 75 at least. Yeah. So I walk in, and I felt like, oh my goodness. I said to her, I don't have enough. And then she said, it's okay. And all these people were on tables. They were all visiting and on their tables, big round tables. And she said, look at this, they brought us some stockings. And I said, do you know who needs them the most? And they started to say, oh, well, this girl's sad today. Can you give her one? Or she's missing this person. Can you give? And they were pointing me to people who needed them the most.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that this is the interesting thing. It's like I was in a really bad place myself, and I actually was struggling with even going to my sister's for dinner because I just felt almost less than, or how I was. My sister has a beautiful home on the lake, and I felt almost uncomfortable or just not in a good space. So here I am in this homeless shelter, and these people, like I didn't just go and leave. I decided to sit down with these two ladies. And I sat down, and at first they were hesitant, but I was like, how are you? And I started talking to them. And then they started telling me these stories, like why they're in the shelter, and that one hasn't seen her daughter and the other one had to give up her daughter. And I was honestly, my heart, I was like listening to these women, and then I was sharing some things, and then I had to leave because they were starting a service. And I decided I'm going to talk to these men out front. So I came back out and I said, I gave you these stockings, but what do you really need? And this one guy said, that's very nice of you. It's very nice. He said, but we need long johns, and we're cold. And, he said, even though it's nice. And I said, oh, I didn't think of that. So then I stopped and talked to these three men, and this is really important. There was a younger guy, about 20, and two men maybe in their 40s. And I just said, so, how are you doing? And how long have you been staying at the shelter? And I started to talk to them. And I'll never forget the conversation. And this one young guy goes, oh, I've been here only 2 weeks, and it's great because I was on the street before, but now I have a bed. And he goes, and I think I have a possible job in construction. And he was telling me all his hopes and dreams and what he wanted to do. And he was really excited. And the other guy was like, oh, I'm from Edmonton. And here it's been hard for me, but I've met some really amazing people here. And I do have some goals. And we're talking about what they're going to do. And then they asked me, and I'm like, I said, you know what, I have to be really honest. I am really struggling in my life right now. And I live in a beautiful home up on the hill. And I've felt depressed, and I'm sad. And I said, and I think like maybe just because I live in a beautiful home, I still struggle. And they were like, it's okay. Like, just, you need to set some goals, and you have to be grateful. And I'm like sitting there talking to these men, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you could have put each of us, they put them in suits and put me in a fancy dress and put us in a party in a hotel, and the conversation would have been the same. They're just people. I was terrified of that street, Wayne. I was terrified of those people. And when I took the moment it's making me tear up, because when I took a moment to actually not just drop the stuff off and leave, just like hear their hopes and dreams and realize like they're exactly the same as me. It's just a different location, and they're trying to change their circumstance, or trying to get better, or trying to help others and help each other. It changed my life. I drove away. Like, I ended up taking selfies with this one lady. Like, they were all around me and I drove, tears pouring down my face when I left that homeless shelter. And I realized in that moment, they did not need me. I needed them. Like, they didn't need those little stockings, and I needed them. I felt love and compassion when I was sitting at the table with the women. I felt like comfortable with them. And it's hard for me to explain how much it changed me for when I realized, wow, I thought I was doing them something nice. And I thought, no, they helped me that day.
I just listened to you, Jane, and I go back to what I said regarding, in a very selfish way, like what I felt is what you experienced, is realizing like, wow, this wasn't so much about them. It was about for me. It is about for me to bubble with bliss in that heartfelt space, to understand, oh my goodness, I can go deeper. I can give more. I can do this. And when we all come to those realizations and the reminders of we have that within us, it's such a beautiful thing, because it's humility in terms of like, I went there to, whether there was this, hey, I'm going to help out. What I got from it is just uncomparable.
I know. And it's interesting, like what stops us. And I mean, the honest truth is I was afraid. And I looked now and thought, those were just people. They're just people that have gone through hard times. We all go through hard times, and they're all in a very hard time right now. But they have goals and dreams, and we're the same. It was just so powerful for me. Like when I showed up at my sister's that day, I walked in with my shoulders back. confident, happy. No one could have my mood that day. Like, and I had told my family that I was thinking of doing it. I don't know if they thought I would actually go through it, but I did. And I was telling the story at Christmas. And I said, I want to go back and bring Long Johns. And my dad said, let's do it together. And the next day we went to Walmart. We bought all these Long Johns and we showed up there, and I just walked out with these Long Johns because that's what they really needed. And they were so grateful, so grateful. And then I went back a couple of days later. I couldn't help myself. I kept going back, and I met this young girl who needed makeup. My heart was like, oh, I can. Then I went out and bought her all this stuff for her skin. My husband's like, you can go, but you can't go every day. And just I was overwhelmed with the feeling I got and I have not gone back since. That's the only thing I think I would like to, because I realized that to help, like I think the Long Johns, I'd like to start something in the way of that. Like we think.
Yeah. So
it was just Long Johns are powerful because it's cold. They're outside, and that would really help. People bring gloves and hats mainly. That's very common. They got a lot of gloves and hats.
Yeah. So you know what? Maybe we're starting something together where, you can do it in Kelowna because it's not hard for people to get the pizzas as well. And here, when we were there, we had seen actually somebody that's an acquaintance dropping off clothes at the same time. And so, we could like say, hey, pizzas and clothes for Christmas. Something simple like that.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Long Johns, you just don't think about it. But I mean, Edmonton is freezing in the winter. Kelowna is not as bad.
You have it pretty easy there, okay? You have it easy in Kelowna. Yeah.
Kelowna's a little warmer.
But can I ask you a question? I'm very curious. When did you start the Compassion Project, your community? When did you start that?
I started it like the beginning of April. I think the first interview was April 2nd. Yeah.
Question for you. And I know that you're such a warm-hearted, wonderful person, kind, all those things I know about you. Do you think that experience that you had led you to starting something like the Compassion Project?
It might have had something to do with it because you never know, like from your past, all your experiences lead you to this, to this, to this, to this. So many things I look back on that I wouldn't have been able to do the Compassion Project if I hadn't had this experience or this experience. And then
they stack and layer on each other, right?
Oh yeah. And then, yeah, it's so interesting, the journey when you can look back and be like, wow, that I had to go through that
to get
so
there.
That I could then learn this to this to this. Yeah.
So I say that because that's my experience. Is like there's so many things I look back on. I'm like, oh, like Soren Kierkegaard, a philosopher, said, life is lived forwards but understood backwards.
Life is lived forward but understood backwards. That is powerful.
Yeah, no, it's always stuck with me. And one other thing I want to mention, I think is really important for the people watching, is there's some great organizations that you can give to and you can be a part of. And especially in this time, there's a lot more regulations. So we wouldn't be able to do what we did with an organization typically if we didn't just go out there and do it ourselves. It took 10 minutes. It took $180 that I think was priceless in terms of the experience I got and what the people they get. So, point is that we all, and you can make a difference by coming up with an idea and then going. And like you said, Jane, there was something that you were scared of, like whether you were scared of going into the neighborhood or whatnot. And those little self-limiting beliefs, I mean, sure, you have to make sure that you're safe. But beyond that, you found out that, my goodness, why didn't I do this before? It was so rewarding. And so I like to put that out there, is that what's one thing in 2021 that you could do that's a great, inspiring idea that you can act on? And it doesn't have to be complex. I mean, it was a simple thing of an idea and then acting upon it and then going for it. Like, why didn't I do it before? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I did it now, and now it's like moving it ahead. And again, a lot of organizations, there's a lot of red tape you have to go through. Yet if you are safe and make sure that you do something that is simple, everyone can make a difference. Everyone can do something like that.
Well, and I think especially in North America, our Christmases can be very materialistic, and it's like teaching your children. If you can get your children at a young age to know on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, that, this is what we do. We're going to go out and and give. And it's so empowering for them to see children, because then you're raising compassionate, kind adults that are going to give back. So creating a habit in your children when
The
they're young.
character, that's in their character. That's their
Yeah.
values. And my kids, I don't know about, where they're getting it all, but like from my parents and all that, they were gifted so much money this Christmas. It was crazy. It's like, well, because we're not seeing you, so here's, hundreds of dollars. I'm like, okay. So do you think that next year they may want to invest in what we did, and then they're a part of it?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing, because you're teaching them right off the bat giving, and then not only giving, you're teaching them life skills about.
Yeah. Even if they each bought one pizza themselves, like that was from them. They know that they fed someone with their own money. That's so powerful.
I remember too, this is something I didn't say, is Ledger, my son, said, oh, if there's a couple pizzas left over, I'll take the pizzas, we'll eat them at home. And there was a point where I was giving all the pizzas out, and I said, Ledger, did you want one pizza? He goes, no, give them out, Dad.
Aww.
So he gets it. Like,
yeah.
Like, hey, we got a fridge. Our problem is we have too much food in there. So it was just such a valuable lesson for us, for them, and we're just excited to see where this goes and what we will do in 2021.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I think because you could have said you're going to do this and gone on your own, and they wouldn't have even understood it. But to bring them, and they see, because children sometimes they don't understand, people are homeless, they don't have homes, but they see that, and they see the need. It completely changes them, right? So
without a doubt. And it's something that, say a year, 2 to 3 years down the road, you ask them how that experience was for them, I'm sure they're going to tell you in their own words how it changed them. Yeah,
exactly. They'll remember it, because we know that your clearest memories are attached to a strong emotion, so they'll remember it forever.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But I also want to say that the Compassion Project, which I was telling you this before we went live, led to recently for me to join a new nonprofit global organization called Peace 360. It was started in May by Chris Rajha, the kindest man. And he truly, truly has this huge goal to create peace in the world. And it's growing very fast. It's called Peace 360 Initiative. And we actually work on, I didn't tell you this, but it's 3 different areas. And it's mental health, reducing conflict, and disaster relief, because it's global. So we have different chapters starting in different areas of the world. But right now it's focused more on North America and the United States. And they're launching a mental health program. It's free, and it's all about when you reduce conflict in homes and in the lives of children, you can raise healthy children. So that it's like changing the world, really 1% at a time, but bringing awareness to it. It's so powerful. It's a beautiful organization.
How can somebody like myself or anybody else watching find out more? Is it a website, Jane?
Yeah, there's a Facebook group I can invite people to, and there's a website. I'll put the website in the comments so people can check it out. And I also have an interview I did on the Compassion Project with Chris Rajha.
Yeah.
I share his story. He's from Sri Lanka, and he's got just an incredible story. And when you listen to his story, you'll realize why this man's mission in life is to create peace, because of what he went through. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Wayne.
You're very welcome, Jane. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to share my story and to listen to yours.
Yeah, it was amazing. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, till next year, we'll come up with something. Maybe we can different cities, we can all join in on that.
I see it. Pizza and Long Johns.
Yeah, I know.
That's a great title.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we'll keep talking, and I'm going to keep having you on because you're amazing.
Thank
you. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Bye.